Khloe Kardashian drops bombshell on Kourtney and Kris's feud. Kourtney became extremely angry after Kris tried to get back in touch with her and restore the relationship between them, because Kourtney previously broke off all contact between them and decided to distance herself from her mum for a while, since Kris never treated Kourtney the same as her other daughters. And recently, Kris tried to make amends, but Kourtney kicked her out of her house. So what happened? Despite being Kris's firstborn child, Kourtney's relationship with Kris has always been very complicated. They've had several serious altercations since the family's reality show was launched back in 2007. Kris always tried to get into Kourtney's business and control her. For example, Kourtney seemed really happy with Scott back then, and they both wanted to tie the knot and get married, but Kris made it all about her and everyone else instead of about Kourtney and Scott, saying that it's a family thing and everyone had to be there and that Kourtney shouldn't want to get married that way. Besides that, Kourtney still holds a lot of resentment towards Kris because Kourtney was very close to her late father Robert Kardashian Sr., and Kris broke up the family when she cheated on Robert with former professional soccer player Todd Waterman. Kourtney and Kris had an explosive argument over Kris's affair after Kris tried to compare her cheating with Todd to Kourtney having a relationship with her then-boyfriend Eunice Benjima. But as Kourtney pointed out, her situation with Eunice was completely different because she wasn't married to Scott. They weren't even in a relationship at the time.
Don't. I'm actually not married.
Right, but
And I'm not having an affair. You can't compare one to the other. That's absolutely not true.
Also keep in mind that Kourtney was 12 years old when her father Robert divorced Kris, which means she probably vividly remembers how much pain and drama Kris caused to the family with her affair, and it's really messed up for Kris to compare what she did to Kourtney dating Eunice. But this wasn't the only time Kris tried to humiliate Kourtney on their reality show. After Kourtney finally ended things with Scott for good, Kris suddenly started pressing her to get married to Scott, and Kardashian fans speculated that Kris only wanted Scott to stay around because he was entertaining for the show. Even after Kourtney made it clear that she wanted to date someone else after spending years being on and off with Scott, Kris still tried to shame her for trying to live her life.
My whole family for a couple years now love to just bring up me and Scott.
And I think he fits well with all of us because we've all been around each other for so long.
Mm-hmm.
I think at this stage, from what he tells me, he would love for it to be you and him.
He's a talker.
And as you all probably know, Kris manages all of her children and apparently takes 10% from the children's businesses. Kourtney herself hired Kris to manage her back in 2008. However, it seems like Kris never trusted Kourtney to make it big, and she decided to focus on her two most profitable daughters, Kim and Kylie. Kris even missed Kourtney's first ever photo shoot as her manager because back then she was still busy trying to push Kim into the spotlight following Kim's private tape scandal. Kourtney even tried to fire Kris 3 or 4 times. Rumors went around that Kourtney finally managed to escape Kris's clutches and got herself a new manager. Apparently, this didn't go over too well with Kris, and fans speculated that Kris ignored Kourtney on purpose and refused to promote her business ventures just because she couldn't beg her 10%. It's also very odd that Kris didn't post any photos of Kourtney at the 2022 Oscars, despite Kourtney being the first Kardashian gender member to attend the event. Before we move on to Kourtney kicking Kris out of her house, like this video and subscribe to our channel to be informed about new juicy Kardashian updates. To continue with Kris's childish actions, she completely ignored the launch of Kourtney's Lemipa gummies, but she continued to post every Skims, Good American and Kylie Cosmetics drop. Kris is all about the cash, and she's mad that she can't make 10% from Kourtney's business ventures. That's why Kris refuses to promote Kourtney's businesses, because even if she no longer manages Kourtney, she doesn't want to help out her own daughter. Fans dragged Kris and the rest of the Kardashian sisters for ignoring Kourtney, and they're calling them hypocrites because they've been shaming Kourtney for years for not having a business and accusing her of being lazy. But now that Kourtney started something of her own without her momager's help, they're showing zero support. Sources close to Kourtney are saying that she's as unbothered as ever and is enjoying the peace and quiet that comes from not dealing with the family on a daily basis. For this reason, Courtney decided to distance herself from her mom because Kris never treated Courtney the same as her other daughters. Kris resents Courtney for not making it easy for her to manipulate her decisions in her career and personal life. Kim and the others are her puppets and moneymakers, while Rob and Courtney lived life on their terms. Since Courtney began going to therapy, she has been open about how she's managed to notice her family's toxic dynamics and behavioral patterns. But most of Court's family members have made it known over the years that they're not quite as keen to seek therapy when it comes to working on themselves. Nonetheless, Courtney has continued to try to explain the importance of therapy to her family members numerous times over the years. She even tried to talk about therapy with Kris several times, but Kris cut her off and diverted the topic every time. After this conversation, Courtney stated that her mom is a massive control freak, and when she's around her mother, she realizes that she never wants to be that way. This left Courtney unable to discuss her issues with Kris. Courtney revealed that she tried to talk to Kris about this one last time to improve their relationship. But a major argument arose, and Courtney broke off all contact. This went well for a month. According to Courtney, Kris regularly called her or sent a message, but Courtney ignored this and it then remained quiet. They did see each other at family gatherings, such as birthdays and holidays. But during these moments, Courtney kept her distance from Kris. But she couldn't ignore it anymore because Kim and Kris showed up at the door to mediate. For Kris to make up with Courtney and for Kim to discuss things with Travis, they planned to take the couple out for dinner, but this didn't sit well with Travis. According to The Insider, Travis has said that they should leave Courtney alone for good and respect Courtney's boundaries because she has said so many times that she doesn't want to be so involved within the family.
If they wanted privacy, I would never follow them or expose them. We're all different, and this is the kind of stuff that makes me feel that they put the show over me and my well-being and protecting me and just me as a person.
It turns out that Kim then made an extremely mean comment to Travis, and this was the last straw for Travis. He kicked Kim out of the house. Kris then started crying and wanted to continue talking to Courtney. But according to The Insider, Kris opened up about all the things she thinks Courtney is doing wrong. After which, Courtney also kicked Kris out of the house. It seems that Kris made a very hurtful comment. According to The Insider, Kris is very upset by Courtney's rejection, and according to Chloe, Kris finds it very difficult to distance herself from Courtney and listen to her wishes. That's also Kris's problem, letting go of control and waiting. "That's really something my mother can't do," Chloe said. So it's clear that the bond between the two hasn't been mended yet. And it turns out that Courtney and Travis are now in a holiday home and don't want to be with the family. Courtney is even thinking about moving.